Again, I'd like to welcome everyone here, and I know we've got some elected officials here. I know the mayor, some of the mayors are here. Would y'all, all the elected officials, would you please stand up right now and save me trying to miss someone? I know there's some here somewhere. Mayor Whitley. You better stand up back there. Ed Meisenhammer standing. Y'all got to keep that in the county. Would y'all introduce yourself? And that was Lindsey Donovan standing here. He he picked up Secretary Decker at the airport. I hope she liked our new airport terminal. Again, I'm glad y'all are here. It's a way of saying thank you for a lot of the people that's been helping us throughout the years, and this was Paul's idea, which is a great one. At this time, I'd like to call on Bill Lawhorn to do the invocation.
If y'all would bow with me, please. Father, we do come to you with thankful hearts, thankful for the beautiful day you've given us, thankful for another day of life to try to go out and make a difference. Thank you for the folks that are gathered here and the companies they represent. We just pray that you would bless the efforts of our economic development team and the Department of Commerce and bring jobs to our state and to our local area. Thank you for the food that you provided. Just give us the strength to continue to do your work. These things I pray in Christ's name. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Donovan to introduce our speaker. That's Secretary Decker. I'm glad to have you here today. I'm going to say that while he introduces you, but thank you for coming.
And I'm going to apologize up front for this gravelly voice, but I certainly am honored to be able to introduce Ms. Decker. Sharon R. Decker was appointed Secretary of Commerce by Governor Pat McCrory in January of 2013. She brings more than 30 years of experience in business and commerce to the position. I actually can't imagine that she's not known by everybody in attendance today. For us preacher kids, that's called preaching to the choir, isn't it, Sharon? Your impression of Ms. Decker may have been formed during her 17 years with Duke Power Company, now called Duke Energy. She began with the company in consumer services, moved rapidly through the ranks to become the youngest and first female vice president in Duke Power's history. Her work at Duke Power led to the creation of its 24-hour customer service center, which we were just talking about here right after Hugo, an organization that still serves as a model for the industry. You may know her from her time as the founding president of the Linwood Foundation, which was created to restore the Duke Mansion in Charlotte as a conference center, and where she began the William States Lee Leadership Institute. While at Linwood, she also served as the chair of the Charlotte Chamber and was named Charlotte Woman of the Year. Or you may know her from the years she spent in Rutherfordton as president of the Doncaster division of Tanner Companies. Also, in 2004, she created and served as a CEO of the Tapestry Group, a nonprofit that helps individuals lead healthy lives in body, mind, and spirit. In addition to her work with Tapestry, Sharon is the wife to Bob, a mother of 4, and a lay pastor and a student in the School of Divinity. My appreciation for Sharon began when she was an elementary school student, and we were next-door neighbors with her parents, Hoyle and Dot, as they served the congregation of West Albemarle Baptist Church, not very far from here. Throughout her lifetime, we have watched as Sharon has sought to do good as she does well. My impression of Sharon Decker is someone who has realized her full potential by taking advantage of every opportunity she's been blessed with to become more than she could hope for or imagine. I want to repeat that. Sharon Decker is someone who has realized her full potential by taking advantage of every opportunity she has been blessed with to become more than she could hope for or imagine. That well describes the type of person we want to lead the Department of Commerce in North Carolina. We're fortunate to have her in that role and happy to have her with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sharon Decker.
Lindsay, thank you. We did grow up beside each other, and you know, when you become a public official, they start asking you a lot of things about, is there anything in your history that might, you know, create a problem or an embarrassment? And the only thing that I could remember was that there was a picture of me topless. And it was on Mill Street when I was 2 years old, and there was a crowd of boys that lived on that street, and Lindsay's 2 sisters and myself. And so there's like 10 boys, and Angelina and Debbie and Sharon, all of us shirtless, standing on Mill Street, playing on the street just like all of us did when we were 2 years old. So I hope that picture never gets seen. But I have great memories of Stanley County. I want to tell you, I was born here in Stanley Hospital, and we moved from here when I was a little over 4 years old. But my father, who was a pastor here at West Albemarle for about 10 years in the 50s and early 60s, and my mother remained very close friends with many people in this community. And you know, in a lot of cases, when pastors move to a new community, they move, and you don't really go back and visit a lot because you get so engaged in a new community that those friendships were hard to sustain. But we came back on a very regular basis to visit with B and Frank Fagan and to shop at Fagan's bookstore, which was downtown, and so many other families that we continued to be a part of this community for a long time. You helped shape my life. And so I'm always proud to say that I'm from Stanley County. Now, the folks in Gastonia, where I grew up, will go, "No, you're from Gastonia." And I'll say, "Well, not really. But I did grow up there as a young girl, but Stanley County is home, and I'm proud of that." But thank you for your gracious introduction. To Paul and to Tony and all of you involved in economic development in this community, I say thanks for the opportunity to come. You told me very early on, we'll get you home early in this process, and you did that, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful that Secretary Crisco was with me. He's been a great confidant and guide, one eager to share ideas and thoughts and to give me, from his experience, guidance, and I'm very, very thankful for that. And his willingness to show up on occasion and just be supportive means an awful lot. I bring greetings from our governor, who is right this minute making a great announcement for the state of North Carolina. We're announcing today that MetLife, the global insurance company, is bringing 2 of their largest divisions to North Carolina. They will open up a new headquarters facility in Charlotte and another in Raleigh over the next 3 years for a total of 2,600 jobs. And it's the largest announced project, I think, that the state has ever been able to make, and so we're excited about that today. The joy for me in this project is not just that MetLife, a great company, very stable company, successful company, is going to bring large divisions to our state, but what planting this footprint in North Carolina will do in terms of additional companies that will come. We were remembering at the table when Fidelity came, they have nearly doubled, a similar size project, but nearly doubled what they expected in terms of number of jobs in the Raleigh area. And what has happened multiplying with others seeing that investment has been huge, and that's going to happen with this project as well. We're looking for those kinds of transformational regional projects, and we'll talk some more about that. But he sends his greetings. He is also busy these days talking about the 3 E's, and you heard it in his inaugural speech, talking about education, talking about efficiency, and talking about the economy. We're in the midst of the budgeting process now, and I can tell you he's very serious about this efficiency piece. After my first budget review, and I picked up the pieces that were laying on the floor around me, and it forced me to kind of go back and rethink. So I said, "You're serious about this?" We're very serious about it. But there are some things that we can do to operate more efficiently and effectively, and we must do that as we are accountable to those of you who make it possible for us to do business in this great state. So what is a woman who's had a long corporate career and now thought she was headed for a career as a chaplain, how has she ended up as Secretary of Commerce? I'm not sure I have the answer to that question, but I'll tell you why I think I'm here and what a difference I hope I can make. There's been a lot made about my time in Charlotte with my colleagues here from Duke Power about my role at Duke there, and indeed that was a very formative period of my life professionally. So I led a major and a large division for the company, and a division that was creating dramatic change for how that company would do work in this century. And that's important as I come to this role. But probably the most important things I've learned about being a Secretary of Commerce and leading this state's efforts to grow this economy came from being born in Stanley County, North Carolina. And it came from watching your evolution over my lifetime. It came from choosing to live in Rutherford County, North Carolina, very similar to your county, very similar in size and character and history, and living in a rural part of this state and recognizing the challenge that we have in a state that, yes, has major urban centers in Raleigh and Charlotte and increasingly in Wilmington and places like Asheville, but we really are a state of small communities, aren't we? Like Albemarle and Baden and Oakboro and Norwood, and you name the small towns not only in Stanley County but all around us. We're a state of small communities, and the health of each of those communities matters. We're a state of hardworking people who believe in the communities in which they have chosen to make home. They're people who are willing to work hard and are committed to family and are committed to community. You are volunteers, and you are business people, and you are involved in agriculture, and you are involved in innovative new businesses. There is a diversity in each of our communities' cultures that is increasingly so and increasingly important. So when I think about North Carolina's economy, I come at it as a small town girl, though my history is very tied to a very successful urban center. But I know you can't disconnect the two. We are intrinsically connected, but uniquely have challenges of our own. So I want to share with you 5 tenets, I think, of economic health in North Carolina, that whether we're in Stanley County or Charlotte, they are essential. And it's critical, I think, that we think about this as we think about growing North Carolina's economy again. 5 tenets, I'll call it, of successful community development and economic development in North Carolina. The first tenet is good health. Now that might be surprising. Say, Sharon, you don't have responsibility for health care in North Carolina, and I don't, but if we're going to grow this economy, every person in North Carolina ought to have the opportunity to live a healthy life. Now, based on what I ate, it's obvious not all of us will choose to live a healthy life. I always eat more than I need to, but all of us ought to have the opportunity to live a healthy life. Well, what does that mean? It means access to health care, right? It means having good quality health care, even in our rural communities. I brag that I had this surgery on my foot in a rural hospital in North Carolina. I'm really proud of that our hospital could attract high quality, high caliber physicians and surgeons and orthopedists. You're doing the same thing in Stanley County. You've built a very successful health care program here. But all of our citizens need access to health care. The other thing is it has to do with the quality of our life, and it has to do with creating living, walking communities, right? Keeping us active, keeping us healthy. If we want to think about what we can give prospective employers to North Carolina, one of the most important things is healthy employees, right? So health is important. It also has something to do about the quality of the food we create. Agribusiness is critically important to the health of North Carolina and has a lot to do with growing great quality food and making it accessible, not only exporting it, we're going to be doing more of that, but also making it available in our communities. So health is important. The second tenet I would mention to you for economic health in North Carolina is education. No surprise to you. Look at what you've done with Stanley Community College. Look at what you've done in your public school system here. Look at what you've done with Pfeiffer and the other educational resources that are around you. You know, learning today is from cradle to grave. How many of us in this room thought we'd be retiring about this age? And how many of us are either choosing not to or don't have the choice to? Whatever the reasons, we're living longer and we have to keep learning in the process because we are challenged by a world that is changing, and if we don't keep learning in it, we'll be left behind, right? And so education is a lifelong process, and we need to be thinking about it in those terms. Senate Bill 14 has been important already in this legislative session as it gives more access to vocational education in our community colleges and in our high schools as well. Somehow in our culture of North Carolina, we have begun to think about work differently, and maybe it's not just true in our state, but I want to suggest this is an educational opportunity for us. That even as young children are in preschool, that we began to talk about the value of work and that all work has honor. There are children who are made to work with their hands. I have 2 of those. There are children that are made to be thinkers and strategists. There are people that are made to be physicians and nurses and medical practitioners. We each have unique gifts and callings and capabilities. And our challenge in education in North Carolina is to ensure that every child has the opportunity to realize that potential. And some of us will reach it early in life, some of us later in life. That really isn't the point, is that we each have that opportunity. So we need to be thinking about work and education as intrinsically linked. Part of that education piece is also ensuring that when people are without employment, that they can get the retraining and the job preparation that they need for employment. I said we ought to rename Employment Security Commission to Employment Transition Services. We're just passing through that phase where they're not there to stay. No one wants to stay in that place, but we need to be sure that all that we are doing is enabling people to return to work. I'm not sure we're there yet. In fact, I'm confident we aren't, but a focus for us in commerce and employment security. The third tenet of great economic health in North Carolina is economic development. Now, that's the place you expected me to spend all my time talking, but that's one tenet in economic health and growth for this state. That does mean we have to recruit firms that have the long-term sustainable opportunity to operate in North Carolina. It means we've got to do more for small businesses to help you grow. It thrills me to come to a setting like this where you see someone who took the family farm and has created a new opportunity for agribusiness in this community. It's happening all over North Carolina. Small business is the lifeblood of North Carolina's economy. We can't lose sight of that. Critically important that we're doing the right things with tax reform that benefit particularly small business people. And I can assure you that that's our focus in this session. I think there's another thing that we have to be very conscious of in economic development is that we need to be proactive. There's a lot of economic development activity that goes on in this country. A lot of folks come to North Carolina to say we might be interested in doing business here. And we need to be in a place to be responsive and to help them make those decisions based on solid facts and opportunity that we offer. But we need to be more proactive and think hard about the kind of business we need to attract to North Carolina. Let me give you one small example. North Carolina is an agricultural state. We should be proud of that. But we don't have our share of food processing in this state. We do when it comes to protein processing, but even limited that in some regard. But we need to actively go recruit food processing companies that can do business in this state and grow out economic development in this state by growing more of the product that they'll be processing. So that's one small example. Talk about the opportunity that we have in manufacturing once again. It's exciting for me, having grown up in a textile community, both here and in Gastonia, to now go into textile manufacturers that are operating in this state that are doing amazing things with technology. Honorable work and important work for this state. We've got to do more in advanced manufacturing. There's an opportunity for us to proactively recruit those businesses to do business here. We've got the best power supply in the world and one of the most reliable, the best priced, and we've got a great opportunity to go recruit businesses that want to do business in places to be successful. The fourth tenet, arts, culture, and tourism. You say that's an interesting thing to put up there right with economic development, with education, but in North Carolina, it's critically important to our economic health. Now, I got to tell you something. There are a lot of businesses that have located in North Carolina because their CEOs vacationed here. And they said, kind of like that place. Kind of neat that you can get to the beach and the mountains at the same time. We underestimate the power of a great experience in a visit, not only in getting people to come here with their tourism dollars, but to relocate their businesses here or to begin businesses here. Tourism matters to North Carolina. Over 40,000 jobs in this state, 40,000 businesses in this state relate specifically to tourism. It's important to this economy. And we're going to get focused on that again as we develop a statewide branding campaign that not only speaks to locating your business here, but coming here and visiting here and experiencing what North Carolina is all about. Again, you've got so many wonderful examples of that in this county, whether it's Mar Mountain State Park and the opportunity to visit there and experience it, like Tillery. Think about wineries just like this. I understand there's several in this community. I mean, I grew up in a dry North Carolina. Who would have thunk it, you know, that wine could be such big business? My dad is rolling over in his grave, Lindsay. But, you know, it's a different day and a great opportunity for tourism in the state, and we've got to be at the lead of that. And the fourth one I would tell you is quality of life and the environment. The other thing we know is that when companies locate to North Carolina and we talk with their employees that chose to relocate, and this project I just announced is going to have about 30% of those jobs they will offer to folks to relocate from 5 different states. They're closing operations in 5 states as they move to North Carolina. And I can tell you that when we talk to those who choose to relocate, years from now, we're going to say, why did you choose to do this? Why did you choose to bring this company? And they'll say, we liked it here. They'll talk about the financial opportunity that was theirs to come here. They will talk about how great the local developers were, and they had a great facility they could choose from, and they'll talk about all those things. But when it comes right down to it, so much of this is not a science, it's about relationship. And it's about the experience they have when they come into a community, and if we're competitive, they see relationships and they see opportunity in a bigger and bolder way, then they make the choice to come here. And so the quality of life matters. And I want to suggest to you that we need to be confident that through this process of new economic growth in the state, that we don't sacrifice the environment in the process. One of the reasons that North Carolina is so special to me and you, I just driving on the road over here from the airport. Congratulations on the airport, that's awesome, amazing, fantastic. But driving here, I'm just struck by how beautiful it is and reminded of God's good earth and what a beautiful place this is. And we need to protect it. It's important for us to protect it. I want to thank you for your partnership in the success of this county and this community, and remind you that those 5 tenets happen in partnership. The state has a very important role to play in policy and ensuring that we are competitive from a tax standpoint. Tax reform is critically important in the state. We are not competitive today with corporate or personal income tax. Those things have to change. But we can set policy, we can make those changes, but in reality, economic growth happens at a community level. This is where it happens. Hospitals in partnership with local leadership, schools in partnership with local volunteers, communities in partnership with public leaders and private leaders, those like you are honoring here today. It is in partnership that community takes shape. And in our case, community is reformed after very difficult economic times. And so my challenge to you today is, as we work together as a state in partnership with you at a local community level, is that we recognize it takes all of us in the boat, trying to get in the same boat. And sometimes we have one leg out, like mine is right now, or sometimes somebody jumps out of the boat, but ultimately we need to be paddling in the same direction. And I think you've got a unique opportunity to do that right here. I tend to see things a little differently, and when I think about Stanley County, I think about a place that some would say is in the middle of nowhere. And I would tell you, you're in the center of everything. I want you to think about it that way. You're sitting about equidistant from the 2 best airports we've got in the state of North Carolina. You're now sitting here with access to that through a fantastic facility of your own. You're within easy commuting distance of great urban centers, and yet you offer a quality of life that those urban centers will never be able to offer again, right? You offer a sense of community. You offer a commitment to community health. You offer a commitment to education that puts you in the center of an opportunity to redefine this economy in ways that have never been defined before. And it means you got to get really, really creative. But here's what I know about Stanley County. You love this place. You are here consciously, purposely, by choice. Many of you have had opportunities to take your businesses, your families, and go lots of different places, and you've maintained your roots in Stanley County because you love it. And it is out of that passion and that commitment that your economy has been turning and will continue to turn. So it's got to include a lot more diversity. Don't walk away from manufacturing. It is at the root of this part of North Carolina. Advanced manufacturing is going to be here to stay, and there's opportunity in textiles. Don't be afraid of it. Advanced manufacturing in textiles is going to be important in the return of the North Carolina economy. So don't walk away from that. Don't go, we're not going back to textiles. Be open that you might just have the right spot for advanced manufacturing to return, and in a bold, big way. There's nothing wrong with working in a textile plant when it's all automatically and computer generated. It's amazing what happens. I was in a firm recently in Roxborough, Israeli-owned, a new investment in the last 4 years during Keith's administration, and they're making all of the Preparation H wipes for the world. It's the only location in the world that makes those particular products. Oil of Olay. Ladies, if you use that on your face and use their makeup removal wipes, they're all made in Roxborough, North Carolina. And one of the things one of the local townspeople said to me, he said, I was scared to death when they said a textile company was coming, but look at what this is. This isn't textiles like I knew it. So I emphasize that because I'm from a community and live in a community right now that's like, we don't want anything to do with that. But the truth is, that's part of what we do well. So let's don't turn our back on manufacturing. At the same time, we've got to get creative, whether it is biotech industries, whether it is life science industries, whether it's the opportunity to spawn more small businesses that are selling their product all over the world. North Carolina is a significant export state, and that's only going to be growing. And we want to help your small businesses learn how to get your products all over the world. You can be at the center of it right here. I conclude it with a crazy story. I live in a very small town now, 4,000 people, and there's not a whole lot to do on a Friday night. So we watch movies, usually. That's about it. Some people still watching videotapes, probably. But they tell the story about a couple in Rutherfordton. They've been there about 40 years. And they were watching a movie one Friday night, and the husband put his arm around his wife, and he said, oh, honey, if I had 1,000 eyes, I'd look at you with every one of them. And she really liked how that sounded. And she scooted up a little bit closer to him, and then she said, you know, honey, I love you so much. And he looked into her eyes and said, I love you so much that if I had 1,000 ears, I would listen to you with every one of them. And she really liked that because, like some men I know, he didn't listen very well. And so she snuggled up a little bit closer, and then he said, honey, if I had 1,000 lips, I would kiss you with every one of them. With that, she pulled her arms back, and she said, you know what, honey, I'd just be glad if you used what you got. So here's my challenge to you. You got to use what you got. My observation in the economic development game is that we look over our shoulder at what Charlotte's doing, or we look over our shoulder here at what South Carolina's doing, or we look over our shoulder at what whoever else is doing, and say, well, now if we could do it like they did, or if we had some of what they did, well, we could do X, Y, Z. Well, there's something to be learned by looking over our shoulder at all those things. But transformation in community happens when you look around at all that's going on and you have an understanding of the landscape, and then you come right here to Stanley County and say, now what is it we've got that we put our arms around uniquely and multiply to change what's happening here? So my challenge to you is to use what you've got. I know you as a people filled with talent and ability. And that's the challenge we face in North Carolina. Joseph Jaworski's written a fascinating book called Synchronicity. And in it, he says, most of us live our lives from a point of resignation. We live our lives from this place where we go, well, if I could, I would. If we had what they did, we might. Well, if it would only shift this way, or if he'd just get out of here, we'd do this, and we can give all those reasons. But he says the communities that survive in any economy, in any circumstance, and this is about the global economy, he said the ones that survive and thrive are the ones who choose to live from a point of possibility, not resignation. So they see all the facts as they are, good, bad, and ugly, and they know what they've got, and they make a decision to build on that which is good within them and use what they have for a better purpose. That's my challenge to you. That's the challenge I leave to you as Secretary of Commerce. I will do everything in my power with a great team to try to lay the policy and the groundwork that can allow you to be successful. But so much of this happens right here in this room. The volunteers, the community leadership that's here. God bless you as you continue the journey. It's going to be fun to watch your continued success. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Secretary Decker, for your global view of economic development and how you hope to work on that as the next few years unfold. And we greatly appreciate the support of the state in our efforts, and we look forward to working with you and your team as we move forward and continue to develop the assets that we have and work with what we have. So at this point, I want to just let you know that there comes a time in the life of any organization or any person to say thank you for those that have helped us along the way and helped us along the path that we're embarked on. Today is one of those days. We're delighted to have the opportunity to celebrate and recognize all of our friends, allies, and partners, many of whom are here today, and we appreciate you coming. As we look back to where we've been and look forward to the path ahead, it's said that economic development is a team sport. I'm here to tell you that not only is that true, but we have one of the best teams of anybody in North Carolina right here in Stanley County. And we're fortunate to have everyone's support. With their help, we've made great strides over the past year or so in strengthening the foundation upon which we can build a more prosperous future. There are many organizations to recognize, from the leads and business development efforts of the North Carolina Department of Commerce, to the research and marketing support of the Charlotte Regional Partnership, to the invaluable infrastructure and incentive support that we receive from the Rural Center and the Golden Leaf Foundation, to the programs of the Stanley Community College, Electricities, and the supportive employers of Stanley County. Our job is made easier by the many hands pulling in the same direction, supporting the foundations for investment and job growth in North Carolina, the Charlotte region, and in Stanley County. We also appreciate the investment that our local businesses have made in our communities over the past year. From New Finish's expansion in Norwood, to Carolina Paper Converters' new investment in Oakboro, to Alcoa's redevelopment activities at the Baden Business Park, all of their efforts have either created or will create new jobs that we can build on for the future. There are a few organizations that we would like to recognize today for their direct, generous, and unfailing support of some special initiatives that have accelerated our economic development program and enabled us to make greater strides than we thought were possible just a short time ago. Together, these allies have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to help us think strategically about our assets and to develop new product to enhance our competitiveness. When we looked at opportunities to expand our product inventory in early 2011, one of the sites that rose to the top was northeast of Albemarle. It is close to halfway between Charlotte Douglas International Airport and the Piedmont Triad International Airport, and across the street from the Stanley County Airport. It is also served by almost 4 megawatts of backup power through generators that Electricities had installed several years earlier. The first recipient of our Outstanding Ally Award is a nonprofit organization that was organized back in the 1990s to support economic development in Stanley County. When we approached this organization for help to design a virtual industrial shell building to help market this prime power park site, they stepped up to fund the architectural design of the building and thus kick-started the entire project. In the time that has passed, they have been a steadfast source of support, have helped with specific project opportunities, and have pledged additional support for future product development efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause for Force Stanley Incorporated and their support of the Stanley County EDC. Accepting the award on behalf of Force Stanley is their chairman, Mr. Bill Lawhon, Jr.
Thank you very much, Bill. Bill, that's the bottom. Be careful. This is the part that breaks right here. Thank you much, Bill. Don't hold it to the hand.
Fill it up with wine or
That'd be
what?
fine. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've had some quizzical looks that we got invited to. You got invited to a vineyard and you're drinking tea, so you can fill that up with wine right across the street, Bill. And for those of you that, that do care to stop by, there is a store across the street, and there's 3 other wineries in Stanley County, so you can make a whole afternoon of it if you wish. The next recipient of our Outstanding Ally Award is a company that embraced our concept of developing a virtual building on this site in the Prime Power Park and ran with it. As the owner of the site, the principal from this organization not only provided the civil engineer to develop the site plan, he also helped see to it that all the environmental evaluations and transportation issues were addressed up front. As if that was not enough, he then decided to invest in the actual site development work to grade and prepare a building pad for a 200,000 square foot building. His investment moved the concept beyond a computer image to what could now be called a hybrid building, which is a virtual building on a prepared site, and that's what I'm calling it. This investment significantly reduces the development risk as well as the lead time required for a prospect to get their business up and running at this location. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to Gus Shad Associates for their support of the Stanley County EDC. Accepting the award on behalf of Gus Shad is his son, James Shad. Thank you very much, sir.
Don't catch it with the ears. Okay. Get on that side. Right here.
Thank you.
The support of these 2 outstanding allies gave us the momentum to expand the sewer capacity serving the airport corridor area. With the help of the Rural Center, we now have a plan that the county will invest in to provide additional sewer capacity needed to accommodate growth in the Prime Power Park. Separately, the Stanley County EDC initiated a dialogue with major firms in our energy sector in the county to uncover workforce development needs that they have in common in order to help attract other firms in this sector. This dialogue led to the creation of the CNC Machinist Certificate Program at Stanley Community College, a short 5 months after this initial discussion. Our goal with all of these initiatives is to be in a position to anticipate and respond to the major needs that any prospect interested in a site or any location in Stanley County may have. These partners helped us accelerate our ability to prepare Stanley County for future development and give us a model that we can build on as we move forward with other activities in other parts of the county. Our last recipient of the Stanley County EDC Outstanding Ally Award is an organization that has a large footprint in the Carolinas and a history of supporting economic development efforts dating well back over 100 years. Yes, their team understands economic development. More than that, they understand collaboration, partnership, and long-term planning. But most of all, they understand the value of relationships. When the EDC's submission of the Brickyard site in southern Stanley County was chosen as one that they would evaluate in their site readiness program, they gave Stanley County an opportunity to get a rare inside look at the site selection process from one of the most well-respected site selection firms in the country, McCallum Sweeney, and to hear their thoughts on the development potential of a particular site, on that particular site and on Stanley County. This exhaustive evaluation not only gave the EDC an additional site to market, but gave us some valuable feedback on some of our strengths and weaknesses and will help guide our future activities to make sure we develop and assemble the most competitive and attractive sites and buildings in our county. It also led to further conversations with our economic development representative, Tammy Whaley, and the special consultant and manager of the site readiness program, Randy Broom, about the importance of coordinating infrastructure assets with our real estate assets. They volunteered to engage the services of another outstanding consultant, Jeanette Goldsmith, to talk to our local utility service providers and others to inventory our assets and liabilities as they relate to economic development. One of the recommendations from the study investing in and consolidating sewer services in parts of the county has already prompted conversations between the county and some municipalities. But they did not stop there. They understood that we did not have the ability in-house to accurately assess the scope of one of our other key infrastructure services, telecommunications. Through their relationships and their experience with heavy data users, this ally not only put us in front of a group that is well-versed in identifying fiber and telecommunications assets, and Kurt Frenzel is here today. We thank you for coming, Kurt. But also helped offset a major portion of the cost of conducting a survey that would help us identify where they are and provide us with detailed information on the fiber services to specific economic development sites. This information will be critical for us to plan and provide the type of data services companies need to operate competitively in almost any industry. And speaking of advanced manufacturing, the Emerging Issues Forum a couple weeks ago really pointed out the need for building out your telecommunications infrastructure, because all of these companies that are in advanced manufacturing are heavy data users. And so that is going to be critical for us going forward. So from this summary of their involvement, I believe that you'll agree that this team went well above and beyond the call of duty to assist us in developing our assets and accelerate the pace of growth in Stanley County. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to Duke Energy's Economic Development Team for their support of the Stanley County EDC, and accepting the award on behalf of Duke Energy is our fabulous Economic Development Manager for Stanley County, Tammy Whaley. Well, with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and thank you for your continued support. We can't do this by ourselves, and we certainly appreciate the input that you've given to us over the course of the time that I've been here, and we look forward to working together as we move forward on these initiatives and others as we go into the new year. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you for your support. And I would like to say a special thanks to some folks that made this afternoon possible. First of all, I'd like to thank Nancy Leip for making the awards themselves that represent Stanley County. They're one of a kind, and Nancy made them by hand, and we really appreciate the effort she put into that, and hopefully you will enjoy those one-of-a-kind awards. The other thing I want to do is make sure that we say thank you to Krista Bowers. Let's give her a hand. She made all the arrangements today. And we want to thank Greens Catering and all those that participate, the Dennis Vineyards and everybody else that had a hand in today's event. Thank you. And we look forward to working with you in the days ahead. So thanks for coming, and we'll see you soon.